right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What Drives You. I am Stan Windhorn, one of your co-hosts. And with me, as always, is my good buddy and fellow co-host, Carl Bauer. Carl, say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for following and watching along. We've got a super interesting guest with us today and friend, Mary Lisa Walfeldt. Hey, Mary.
Hi, everyone.
So, Stan, let me give you a little background on Mary. We met in 1986,
Six. Yeah.
right? 86.
Yeah. A few years ago.
Okay.
She was, yeah, 40. Holy smokes.
I know.
She was connected with my wife at the University of Illinois, and then they became roommates later and now remained friends, almost like family that
Yeah.
we've chosen. Our kids have grown up together. She and her husband Wally are amazing people. They live just in outside of Chicago, so nearby. But they have two daughters, so we had just a lot of commonalities in family size and interests and Mary's got some cool new learnings that she's going to share with us today.
Very nice.
So, Mary, you don't know this, but Stan just started a new job in the last little bit. So he's been under not stress so much, but just, like learning new tech, learning new procedures, this all that stuff. So this
I think
breathing,
stress is fair. Stress is is an okay word to use.
all right, so very timely in your current career, but let's back up a little bit because you've had a fun journey in life before having kids. Tell us, I can't remember what your major was, but you did a bunch of other marketplace stuff before landing on this very rewarding and I think life altering practice. So
Yeah.
let's start out after college.
Yeah. So let's see. After college, worked for Kodak, Eastman Kodak Company in sales, and loved it. And after Kodak sold off our division, some U of I contacts had a connection to Classified Ventures, which you're familiar with.
Mm.
They started cars.com, apartments.com, newhomenetwork.com, auctions.com. And so had just a great time running at the speed of light, launching all of those verticals in the online world. And at the same time, my dad, and Carl had met my mom and my dad. My dad had a stroke in my arms 28 years ago up at our house in Fox Lake. And it's funny how, they say when you can look back years ahead, look back, you really understand what's going on. So my dad had a stroke in my arms. I somehow knew he was having a stroke. We didn't have all those PSAs that we do now for signs of a stroke. And where we lived, you want to take your person to the hospital so they get to the right hospital. So I called Condell Hospital from my cell phone, which is funny. The girls couldn't believe I had a cell phone at the time.
Mm.
And I said, my dad's having a stroke. I'm coming in right now. And they said, we'll be waiting for you at the emergency entrance with a stretcher and a tank of oxygen. So that was kind of my
Mm.
entry point into why our brains and every cell in our body need oxygen. My dad had a left brain hemorrhage stroke from high blood pressure, which he didn't take care of and was warned by the doctor. So that
Mm.
started my journey while I was still working full time, married Wally, had two girls. And sadly, my dad's health issues got worse because of that. So the stroke, paralyzation on the right side, led to heart surgery 7 years later and led to a vascular dementia diagnosis, which some of you know. Vascular dementia is the ugly one, where the really kind, nice people get really angry and feisty and start abusing the people around them. So that's how I got started in studying the brain and oxygen. But then as time went on, because of all of that, I started getting very stressed in my life, my personal life. And I was traveling at the time all over the country for work, as was Wally. Thank goodness my mother-in-law was our nanny, but I had a panic attack in bed one night. Wally wasn't home and I was working on a report, and about midnight, I could feel my heart beating out of my chest, and I couldn't take it, and I couldn't sleep at night. And like many of us, right? When we lay down, that's when all the thoughts and the worries and the fears enter our brain.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I remember the night like it was yesterday. And I remember thinking, I would give $1 million if somebody could teach me how to quiet the voices and the worry in my head and calm my
Mm.
body down. And so I went to the library and got out some meditation CDs and books. I started doing breathing meditation, which made me more curious about breath work. And then I found Dr. Belisa Vranich in New York City, who had just at the time, 2016, written the book Breathe, 14 Days to Changing Your Physical and Mental Health. And I read the book in 2 days, and it connected for the first time my understanding of how our breath is connected to our body and all these important systems in our body. And I remember thinking, why didn't we all learn this at some point in our lives?
Mm.
And I started doing some real simple breathing exercises. I also paid attention to what she was doing and was part of her very first teacher certification training program in New York City. And I did that for myself. And when I noticed that I was sleeping better, I was so much calmer. My digestion improved. My stress really melted away. I would bring it into my work. And at the time, I was working with some attorneys who were very high stressed. And when I brought the exercises to my colleagues, they said, "Oh my gosh." One of them said, "ML, oh my gosh, this shit really works." His words, not mine. And you start to recognize, right? It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you're making, what your job is. If you're just caring for family, we all are going to be affected by outside forces and stresses. And if we can find a way to go within and calm ourselves down and improve our health and be present, so many other things get better. So that was the start of it, but I was still working. And as the next year or two went on, my dad got so sick, I had to stop working and take care of my parents. And friends suggested to me, why don't you just start teaching this part-time while you're taking care of your parents? Like teach people with cancer or go to the schools and work with teachers, go anywhere and help anyone. And I started doing that, and it was really rewarding. And now it's turned into what I do.
That is
Wow.
so cool. I actually have a very dear friend of mine. She is a person who works a lot with people at a place called Miraval here in Austin. But people come and spend a lot of money to spend an hour with her. But she's very much into breath work, and she's a firm believer. And she's had me do some of it a few times. It sounds to me like I need to be doing it a bit more consistently. Uh,
The beautiful thing is, and I'm a huge fan of Miraval. I've been to their Tucson location probably 5 times in the last 20 years. It's
mm,
and Stan, funny because my girlfriends and I would go and I would say, how can we bring Miraval back to my everyday world, right? I love going once every 5 years, but I need it all the time, right?
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
those simple tools like breath work. And when I teach, I really try to make it fun and easy and help you understand you don't need to do 40 minutes of breath work every day. You can do 2 minutes in the morning before you get out of bed, and you can do another 2 minutes before you go to bed. And you can find 30 seconds, maybe 4 times a day. And that's going to make a huge difference. I think one of the most empowering things is, and you're reading it and seeing it everywhere now, which is great because I've been doing this for 9 years. But the way you and I breathe affects our nervous system through our vagus nerve. And we can control that. We can go internally and switch the way we're breathing and now take control of that nervous system and put your body in rest and digest so that as those things start to happen, you won't be as affected.
Mm.
Another important stat, which is crazy, after the age of 6 years old, we all start to develop one of four dysfunctional breathing patterns, right? That's pretty sad. That,
Hmm.
around age 6 or 7, we start to breathe
Yeah.
incorrectly and it works against our body instead of working with our body.
Hmm.
Wow. I had no idea it was something that affects people at such a young age.
Yeah, it's
I thought
funny.
it was an
I
old
got
guy thing like, I get.
Yeah, it'll help you. So Stan, two quick stories tying into this, which just popped into my head. But Stan spent a lot of time the last year doing. A friend of ours has a hyperbaric chamber. We'll
Yes.
talk about that in a second because that ties into oxygen and breathing a little bit. But in high school, growing up, I could never fall asleep. I mean, if you talk to Beth right now, she would not believe that, my bride, because she knows that I can fall asleep in about 30 seconds. But growing, I literally would cry myself to sleep, Mary, because my brain was racing, probably
Mhm.
growth hormones, anxiety, who knows, being bullied, I don't know what. But I had a gym teacher who, Stan, you remind me a lot of. His name was Mr. Sonnenberg. And he had our whole entire class. This was I think it was freshman boys in the wrestling room. We all laid on the floor. He turned down the lights, and we were all like, "This is creepy, weird." And he had this deep, calm, soothing voice, like Stan, and he just had this breathing exercise. You guys, in 10 minutes, the whole class was asleep in
Yeah.
the middle of the freaking day.
Yeah.
So he did that a couple more times throughout my high school career, and I passed that on to my girls. So even now, if I ever do have a stressful day where my mind is racing, or whatever, I do these lay flat, my body's heavy, breathe deep, and I am gone in seconds because of
Yeah.
this practice, which I never connected to you and what you teach till this moment.
Well, and it's funny, in the last 25, 30 years in the Western world here, we are keeping ourselves in some form of fight or flight. We've gotten so used to this chronic state of fight or flight that we're keeping ourselves in it for days and weeks and months and years. And our bodies were never meant for that. Fight or flight is a good thing in the heat of the moment, right? To get you to jump out of a burning car or to get you to run if you're being chased by a dog. But we were never meant to stay in it for as long as we're keeping our bodies in it. And the negative impact of that is inflammation in the body, chronic inflammation. And 95% is what the scientists are saying. 95% of the reasons we're going to the doctor or hospital have to do with some form of inflammation.
Yeah.
And so when we recognize, and again, it comes back to what you said, Stan, like little nuggets throughout the day, right? Um, just little, we're rebooting and resetting throughout the day. 3 breaths here, 5 proper breaths here, 10 breaths before you get on a new call or a new client meeting. 5 breaths before you walk into the house after a long day of work and get yourself calm and focused. It makes the biggest difference. And the cumulative effect on your body. I worked with a woman 8 or 9 years ago who had a child who very severely neurodivergent, and she never slept past 4 in the morning. She was so worried about her child, and we worked on her breath work. We gave her 3 or 4 exercises to practice, but in an hour session, we maybe did 30 minutes of breath work. And she texted me the next morning and said, "Oh my gosh, I slept till 6:15 this morning. What happened? Was it all that oxygen I got to my brain yesterday?" Kind of. Here's what it was, right? We put her body in rest and digest, then we talked a little, then we did another exercise, and she was in rest and digest. We talked a little more, she did another exercise. So several times in that hour, her poor body finally got to relax and calm down. And that was enough that when she put her head on the pillow that night, it was enough difference to say, "Oh, we're going to relax," right?
Yeah.
And the good news is we were all born perfect breathers. If you look at your dog or your cat or a toddler or a child, right? That rise and fall of the belly, perfect design of these incredible bodies. We're the ones that take it off the rails. But the beautiful thing is we can be taught how to breathe the right way again, and it makes a big difference. So it's
Hmm.
important.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a firm believer that what you said, that inflammation is the enemy, and the cause of many of the things that send us to the doctor or the hospital or even the morgue. So yeah, I think anything people can do to take down the inflammation that's internal is going to be a big help. It sounds like this affects that directly.
Affects it directly, and you are your best case study, right? So 2 summers ago, I had a pinched nerve in my lower disc and I couldn't get off the floor, and the pain was excruciating. And I don't have very many medical issues, but the pain was just screaming through my body. So I thought, I'm just going to lay here and do my breathing exercises. I did, but I still couldn't get off the floor. So Wally ended up having to get me to the hospital. And I sat in the emergency entryway, patient area for 2.5 hours. And my body was in shock. So my arms were shaking, my legs were shaking. They had me in a wheelchair, and my body was convulsing uncontrollably from the pain.
Wow.
But all I was doing was inhaling through my nose, slowly exhaling through my mouth, and keeping my internal state calm. So much so that when they brought me in the back and took my vitals, the machine alarms kept going off, and the nurse thought it was a faulty piece of equipment. She finally brought over her third machine to test my blood pressure and my heart rate, and it was me. I had lowered my heart rate and lowered my blood pressure on demand, which any of us can do at any point in time to keep our internal selves calm. And those are the kinds of things. I also went for hormone testing 2 or 3 years ago just to check out my hormone situation. And the doctor sat with me during my results and she said, I've never seen this before in someone your age. Yes, you have no testosterone, you have no estrogen, you have no DHEA, but look at this screen. It's cortisol. And when I see women your age, there's usually a spike of cortisol that lasts all day long and then tapers down at night. She said, you have no cortisol. The graph is dragging along the bottom. And that was an aha moment for me, right? Because I do this breath work all the time. And now it's just built in. My body knows that when I hear something stressful, experience something stressful, it immediately goes into a proper diaphragmatic breath on its own. So your bodies can do the same, but you can be your best, you know.
Something you just said reminds me, I'm sort of a student of magic just for fun, but that was one of the things that Houdini used to talk about because he would go in these situations where, first of all, highly stressful. He's in a straitjacket and dunked underwater or whatever his escape was. But part of his secret to success, according to him, was his ability to be able to control his blood pressure and his heart rate and everything through breathing.
Absolutely.
So if it's good enough for
Absolutely.
Houdini, it's good enough for this guy right here. I can tell
Well,
you
and
that.
now, you guys, when I work with teenage boys, especially, right, I will approach it if they're an athlete in any capacity. What sport do they play? I approach it from the famous athletes who have been doing this breath work, and it's been a tremendous benefit. So, Steph Curry is one. One of the reasons, right, especially during COVID, this was important. At the age of 27, it doesn't matter, 27, 28, doesn't matter if you're male or female, what ethnicity you are, we start to lose lung capacity at age 27, 28. And so during COVID, we were helping people do breathing exercises to strengthen their inhale and exhale muscles, but to also increase their lung capacity. So Steph Curry works with his trainer and he puts a strap across the lower part of his lungs, and the trainer's pulling on the strap, and he's working on the inhale to expand his belly and strengthen his lung capacity because he knows if you're running up and down the court for 55 minutes and you've still got oxygen, that's your strategic advantage over the other players,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah, it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Hey, Stan, did you, and this will tie in a little bit. So, Mary, a lot, I've been paying attention a lot to cold plunges, the hyperbaric, which we mentioned here in a little bit.
Mhm.
I've set a personal goal to, be on the treadmill every day on incline for 30 to 60 minutes, which has been going really well as far as helping me not be sick. Like I was thinking about 2025, I was barely sick. And that's the first year I've really done over 300 days of consistent treadmill work, which
Yeah.
is entails breathing. But Stan, I can't remember, did you do 30 days or 60 days in the hyperbaric? And what were the
I
results?
did like 61 or 62 days in a row, about an hour and a half a day. I was very fortunate that a friend of mine has a very, very top of the line chamber. And so I got to do it for free, and I had the time to do it. So it was a great experience. I'd love to do it again.
What changes did you see though?
You know, a lot of the hyperbaric oxygen therapy is used for, like, athletes use it a lot now when they're recovering from an injury. It's been proven to uh, help injuries recover quickly. The thing, I didn't have an injury or anything, so there wasn't anything that I was able to go, this has really made a big difference in this, because I didn't really have that many of an issues. But I spent a lot of the time in the chamber researching the research on that, and the whole premise of that, as you probably know, Mary, is that it's you're breathing much more pure oxygen, and you're in this compression chamber, and it pushes that oxygen deep into the cells, including the brain. But there's been some studies that have shown that at the end of our DNA strands, there's something called telomeres,
Mhm.
and they get shorter as we age. And hyperbaric oxygen therapy, oxygen, oxygen, it's been shown to uh, extend those. Basically, it's sort of an anti-aging theory, because I don't know if it grows the telomeres longer or makes them longer or whatever, but yeah, it's got some really neat things. But the whole thing, I think, is based on what our guest is talking about, is that it's so important for us to get oxygen into our bodies in the correct way.
Absolutely. And those hyperbaric oxygen chambers, I don't know if you remember, but I do because I met the person who owned the hyperbaric oxygen chamber in LA when Michael Jackson was filming a Pepsi commercial and he got burned.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
raced him across the street because there was a hyperbaric oxygen chamber facility
Right.
there. When we flush any part of our body that's injured with oxygen, it heals that much faster. But you and I each have the ability to intentionally breathe powerfully every day, and we don't. So part of my story is I, in the 80s, 90s, I had neck and stress and tension in my shoulder. I would wake up twice a year, probably locked in bed where I couldn't sit up. I couldn't get up. I'd go to the hospital. They would give me anti-inflammatory and muscle relaxers, and they would say, "You're going to feel fine in a few days. Just take these." And by the third or fourth time, I said, "Okay, okay, I get it, but why is this happening to me?" They couldn't tell me. It wasn't until I trained and became certified with Dr. Belisa. I was a breath holder. So, one of the dysfunctional four patterns that we all fall into, I was holding my breath all day long, typing, concentrating, writing, and I wasn't breathing. And when I stood up, I would sigh. And my colleagues at work or my mother-in-law at home would say, "You sigh a lot. Do you hear yourself? Why are you sighing so much?" My body was trying to tell me, breathe, breathe. We're not breathing, right? And
Yeah.
your diaphragm muscle, which we've all heard the term diaphragmatic breathing. And here's the mini anatomy lesson. Are you guys ready?
Ready,
So,
Ready.
ready.
um, in between our two sets of ribs that curve down, about an inch above that lowest floater rib is where our diaphragm muscle connects in the interior of our rib cage, and it curves around. It's a dome-shaped muscle. And when we breathe properly, the way we were designed to breathe, on the inhale, that muscle lowers and flattens 2 to 3 inches in our rib cage, and then it contracts back up on the exhale. So on every single breath we take, there should be a lowering and then a contracting of that diaphragm muscle if we're breathing correctly. And what that does is when the diaphragm muscle lowers, it takes our ribs and opens them up just a bit more so that you and I can get more oxygen into the biggest part of our lungs, which is down here, not up here. Think of the traffic cone. Most of us are ever only breathing into the top 20% of our lungs, and we're sipping air versus taking a proper breath to fill the base of our lungs. So, any guess on how many incorrect breaths or little breaths it takes, upper body breaths it takes to equal one proper diaphragmatic breath?
I'm
Carl,
going
you got a
five.
guess?
I'm going five.
Exactly right, 5,
Oh,
right?
Wow, look at the big brain on Carl.
However, you can be a much more efficient breather if you bring the breath back down to the diaphragm and you breathe the way you were born to breathe. So, the reason it's called belly breathing, and if I give you two a quiz right now, in fact, let's just do this for the sake of anyone watching. Sit up straight as if you were at the doctor. They're putting a stethoscope on the front or back of your chest. Stan and Carl, we're going to take 2 proper breaths together, or 2 deep breaths together. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Big inhale, big exhale. We don't even need to do the second breath. Okay. The number 1 most dysfunctional breathing pattern is called vertical breath. So did you see or feel yourself do a little bit of this?
Yep.
A little rise and fall of the chest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the number 1 dysfunctional pattern. But look at what we're doing. We sit all day. Gravity, right? Helps our dysfunctional breathing pattern. We get tired. We're stressed, right? So we're going to use our shoulders and upper chest muscles to try and help us breathe. I was a breath holder. That's dysfunctional breathing pattern number 2. For some of you, when I test you and work one-on-one with you, I'll put a tape measure around the biggest part of your lungs. And when I say, take a deep breath in, many of you will suck in and make your waist smaller on the inhale. And then on the exhale, you'll just relax. That's paradoxical breathing, breathing exactly opposite of how your body was designed to breathe. And then there's overhalers. So any of you that are mouth breathers, really bad for you. Right? And you're taking too many breaths per minute and you're breathing through your mouth. So the proper breath is called diaphragmatic breath or belly breathing. It really isn't your belly getting bigger, but it's your diaphragm coming down and opening up the biggest part of your lungs and getting air down there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I'm wearing dark clothing, but a proper breath, my shoulders should stay perfectly still. And on the inhale, my belly should expand.
Yep.
And on the exhale, so expansion on the inhale, contraction. My sides are expanding. If I got in child's pose, you would feel the back of my lungs expanding.
Yeah.
That's the way we were
And,
born to breathe. And
and
your
it's in through the
body,
nose, out through the mouth.
so most of when I'm teaching you exercises, I want you breathing in through your nose and then a long, slow exhale through your mouth, because that's what activates the vagus nerve and puts your nervous system in rest and digest. So let's just try 3 breaths together. We're going to do a slow inhale through the nose, long, slow exhale through the mouth. Try to
I'm all
keep your,
stressed out about this, by the way, this test right now.
don't worry, it gets easier.
All right.
But just try to sit up straight, shoulders back. Believe it or not, try to relax your jaw and your neck, right? You can or not, if you want, put one hand just above your belly button. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. Gentle inhale through the nose. Long, slow exhale through the mouth. Another gentle inhale through the nose. Long, slow exhale through the mouth. One more. Inhale through the nose. Long, slow exhale through the mouth.
All right. Why do
Good.
I feel dizzy?
Nice.
You will feel lightheaded and dizzy. We are really playing around with the oxygen intake and the CO2 output. So here's an interesting thing. When was the last time either of you ever practiced exhaling?
Well, ironically, it's been a while, but and I was going to tie this in later because Stan and I have this little side passion of music and singing and performing. But I learned in high school, same time I was learning that sleep thing, I was learning the diaphragmatic breathing because I was in very high level choir stuff. And that was a
Okay.
huge part of the breathing. But
Yeah.
I just did it because it was singing and it gave me more, lasting tones. But I
Yes.
still practice it 40 years later because it's like, when I do that, like I can feel you guys, and maybe you can elaborate on this, what this means medically. When I do these deep breathings, a couple, 2, 3, 4 of them, the stress that goes out of my body is like instant, instant.
Yes. Yes. Well,
Pretty cool.
anyone with asthma, exercise-induced asthma, COPD are typically terrible exhalers. So I like to teach with the 10 minutes a day, right? Whether you do 1 minute, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, inhale through the nose. Here's why, quick tip. I wish I could go back and teach my dad this. When you and I inhale through our nose, the tissue in our nose and the hair follicles act as antifungal, antiviral. So they're stopping a lot of the allergens and pollutants from getting into our bloodstream. Your nose also will warm or cool the air you're taking in, but it's this third point. When we breathe in through our nose, we help our body create more nitric oxide, which acts as a vasodilator, which is blood pressure medication, natural blood pressure medication. So it opens our arteries and blood vessels wider so the blood can flow more freely to every cell in our body. It's the blood that carries the oxygen, and you need that blood going everywhere, right? So I actually will work with folks and test their blood pressure, their heart rate, and their oxygen saturation rate before we start. We'll do 3 minutes of breathing, and then I'll take their blood pressure again, their oxygen saturation rate, and their heart rate. And they recognize, oh my gosh, I just lowered my blood pressure. I just increased my oxygen saturation from a 91 to a 96. A lot of my elderly clients, people ask me to work with their parents. My mom, Carl, you know my mom. She was a Sicilian. That's part of my story, Stan. I was adopted at birth. My mother came to Chicago from Sicily at age 15. So my mom was this whirling dervish of nerves and stress and
Yeah.
and I was around that my whole life, and I thought, holy cow. And it wasn't until I went away to school that I realized, oh, we get to choose, right, how we want to be.
Yeah.
That's
But my
so cool.
mom
Let
had
me ask you for a recap
yeah.
real quick. So if we did that kind of breathing, you said how long in the morning, how long before we go to bed, and then throughout the day do it. You gave us sort of a formula.
Yeah, so I say, and we're sitting here talking. The best way to learn if you're breathing, if you're engaging your diaphragm, is to lay down, put your hand on your belly, relax your shoulders, your head, let your body get heavy on the couch, on the bed, on your family room floor. Put your hand on your belly and try to do 2 minutes of gentle breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. So
Okay.
I say when the alarm goes off in the morning or when you wake up, do not reach for your phone. Put your hand on your belly and do a minute or two of breathing. Get your body in rest and digest before your feet hit the floor and you start your day. We
Okay.
all
So
know
2 minutes at the
two
beginning
minutes,
of the
do two
day,
minutes, do 2 minutes.
2 minutes
Um,
before we go to sleep.
and then before you go to sleep is key. We are in some form of fight or flight, and we get into bed and our bodies are still like racing. And then we go, oh, it's time to go to sleep. It's 10:45 or it's 11. I'm only going to get 6 hours of sleep. Your poor body hasn't had time to decompress. So intentionally do 2 minutes of breath work before you go to bed. Get your body in rest and digest. You will fall asleep faster. You will stay asleep longer.
That's
Now, I
super
just
cool.
started working with a client who it keeps hitting the snooze button in the morning. And here's where the fun analogy comes in to your cars, your car talk. Use your breath to get you where you need to go. If she needs to wake up and perk up first thing in the morning, we're not going to do slow, calming, stress reduction breath work. We're going to do 1 minute of fast-paced breath work. 2 inhales through the nose and exhale through the mouth really fast. So it looks like this. You do a minute of that. Now the blood's flowing and it's pumping. And she goes, oh my gosh, I'm getting right out of bed and getting on the treadmill for 30 minutes every morning, right? So
Nice.
use
Yeah.
your breath as the tool that you need. And then stand to your point. Yes, 2 minutes here, 30 seconds here. Are you taking the dog for a walk around the block? Practice your breathing while you're walking around the block. When you're in your car and you hit the red light, instead of getting irritated that you caught the red light, which is what I used to do,
Mm.
use that as an opportunity to say, great, I'm going to count how many breaths I can take while I'm at this red light to lower my blood pressure, to boost my immune system, to calm me down. You get in the wrong lane, grocery lane at the checkout at the grocery store. Like we let these little things irritate us
Yeah. When it's
instead
an
of saying,
opportunity to
this
calm
is an
ourselves
opportunity to
even
take
more.
care
That
of me.
I gotta tell you, Mary Lisa, this is probably the most practical of all the episodes we've ever done. We've had a lot of guests with a lot of great stuff, but this has been super practical. I mean, we're leaving this episode with things that we can start doing literally immediately, and I appreciate your time so much. How do people who want to learn more from you, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to my website, intentionalbreathml.com. I know it's a long string of letters there. I'm also on Instagram with some videos that can be helpful, and that is at intentionalbreath_ML.
Yeah, we'll put those in the
Put those in the
description.
notes.
Yeah,
You
maybe you
also,
could email those to Carl and you can get those
Yeah,
to me. I'll put them up. I'll
perfect.
put them up on the screen as well. Very,
you
Yeah.
know
very
what's
cool.
funny though? You might have just solved, which is a serious, serious issue, Stan's road rage. Now he can breathe, when he's normally flipping and doing, he can now just breathe and be.
Dan, my daughters said to me after a couple years of this, Mom, you're a different person. You used to be a road rage driver.
Ah!
And I
Well,
was, and
Carl's kidding. I am not
I would
typically a
talk
road
to the
rage
people. Do you
driver.
talk to the people in the car next to you? Like, you're like, what are you doing?
He
I'm very,
doesn't know he does it, Mary, because I'm on the phone with him and I hear him yelling at people, "What are you doing?" Because when
Not
he's by
true.
himself, he does do it.
Does this breath work help people like Carl stop from exaggerating the truth so much?
here's my last tidbit on what it does. And I'm going to
All
loop it
right.
back around to my dad, who was an engineer. And my dad used to say when he had a problem to solve and he needed to design a part for the line to fix what was wrong, he would go in his office, close the blinds, and close his eyes for 10 minutes and get quiet. And when he woke up after 10 minutes, he already always had the answer in his head of what he needed to design and fix. And I think for us as parents, coworkers, colleagues, partners, good neighbors, when you focus on your breath, you get quiet. And it's really nice to get quiet sometimes so that we can hear the answer that we need to hear about whatever it is we're struggling with.
Yeah.
But it also will make you a better business partner, life partner, parent. When you give your undivided attention to someone in your life, it could be a client. That is one of the best gifts you can give someone.
That is beautiful. I love it. Well, Mary Lisa, thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you for
We usually
having me.
end these sessions with a quick rapid fire, has to do with cars.
Yep.
So are you ready for your three questions?
I'm ready.
Okay. What was your first car you ever had?
My first car was I don't know what year it was. I'm thinking it was a 78 or 79 Mercury Capri
Oh yeah.
manual. I learned to drive manual car and it was ugly. It was brown. It was really not a great color, but I loved it.
All right. Well, we both most of us love our first car because, it's our first
It's
car.
our first car.
Freedom.
Okay. What has been your favorite car you've ever had?
So my favorite car is the car I'm currently driving, and it's less about the car. I do drive a Volvo XC90, but it's the first car of mine where I chose the car because of the interior color.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
nicknamed my car Sunny. She's a very light tan interior with the extra big sunroof. I'm a sun worshiper. I feel like the sun rejuvenates my soul. And I tell everyone this, you should pick your car not by the exterior, what it looks like to other people.
Yeah.
You're inside the whole time. Make sure you love the interior. So it's my current car.
That's great advice. Okay. Budget is not a concern. What would be your dream vehicle?
So my dad had a thing, which when I looked up the Mercury Capri, it was actually built in Cologne, Germany. My dad had a thing about German built cars. We had a hand-me-down Mercedes when I was in sixth or seventh grade, and my mom and my brother got hit by a drunk driver, and it was the weight of that huge Mercedes sedan that saved their lives.
Wow.
So going down the Mercedes path, I would love like, I don't know, one 1957, 58, two-door old Mercedes 300 SL.
All right. All really interesting answers. It's funny, Carl. We get a lot of people when we ask them what their favorite car is. Lately, we've had a lot of people saying it's the car I'm driving right now, which is
Yeah.
cool, right?
Yeah.
All right, Carl, take it away with our words of wisdom.
So I warned you a little bit about this ahead of time, and I'll just give a little context about and this has been absolutely educational. We kind of try and always have entertaining episodes, encouraging episodes, or entertaining, encouraging, or education.
Educate.
Educate, yeah. So with this has been to me a little bit of education, a little bit of encouragement, entertainment. Yes, because it's a learning, right? We're always learning.
Yeah.
But I always say that like this with the wow question is, what would you tell 18, 19, 20-year-old Mary Lisa, which maybe told your daughters, that you wish that you know now that you wish you knew then that would have helped, these last 40 years?
It's a big one, and it's really simple. I didn't learn it till I was in my 50s, 40s, 50s, but you get more of what you are, not what you need or want. So it ties into the breath, right? Peace doesn't come from out there, it comes from in here. So the more I can go within and find calm and peace and joy and love, I'm not going to be looking for external validation of that. And it makes me so happy and so powerful. But then because I found it within myself, believe it or not, the universe or God keeps bringing it to me in everything else that comes my way. Very
That is
peaceful.
awesome. Awesome,
Good
awesome.
one.
Thank you so much for
It
taking
was
your
so
time with us
fun.
and for such a great practical thing. I can't wait. I'm going to start everything you just recommended. I'm going to start trying it, including the red light. I mean, that makes so much sense. Instead of just wasting time at a red light, do
It's
something good for your
bite-sized
body.
chunks. Make it fun.
Yeah,
Put your favorite song on and do it. Make it fun,
sure.
and you'll commit to it.
Well, Mary,
Thank
Well,
you.
I
we
hope we
appreciate you very much.
yes, and I hope we can have you back because I do want to tie in because I'm sure there's learnings around the cold plunge and the hyperbaric
Yes,
and
yes.
exercise that we can expound on this a little bit, but the practical stuff we got today is just amazing. So thank you.
A great foundation. Well, you guys are doing a great job. It was so fun to be here today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, Carl, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of What Drives You. And remember, be good humans.